This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of September 10th, 2023. Content authenticity statement. 100% of this newsletter was generated by me, the human. No AI was used to generate the content of this issue. This week, let's talk about avoiding AI point solutions. Let's take a moment to think about your kitchen. Big or small, rich or poor, your kitchen probably has a decent number of items in it. Some of them may be different appliances like blenders, instant pots, toasters, microwaves, stoves, refrigerators, etc. Folks with more room or more budget may have more things like air fryers, convection ranges, induction plates, and so on and so forth. One of the things that cooking shows and professional chefs have drilled into us over the years is that unitaskers, single-purpose appliances, are generally bad in the kitchen. They consume a lot of room, a lot of counter space, and they're impractical for anything except their intended use. They're a tool that has only one function. That just clutters things up. Like, those those barbecue meat shredding claws, like those giant plastic claws, or that pancake batter dispenser that is really only good for pancake batter. A regular fork will shred barbecue meat just as fine. Mixing bowls and measuring cups will serve up pancake batter just as well. And those are tools that obviously have a lot more uses besides that one intended purpose. So those unitaskers are bad. Now, there are some exceptions. My espresso machine is a unitasker. It really doesn't do anything else except make espresso. However, that is a case where the unitasker is so good at what it does that an attempt to substitute it with something else it's going to create really subpar results. Could I make regular coffee with coffee grounds in a cooking pot? Sure. Is it going to be espresso? No. Will it be tasty? Maybe, but it's also a lot of work. So that's a case where I am okay with that unitasker. Now, you may be asking, this is useful advice to a degree, but what does this have to do with anything that I normally talk about? I bring up all this kitchen talk because this is how people are approaching AI right now, and it's causing issues. Not a day goes by on LinkedIn or Slack or Discord or the network formerly known as Twitter when someone asks a question along the lines of, hey, does anybody know a good tool, a good AI tool for X, where X is, some relatively common function? A tool to make a PowerPoint presentation, a tool to transcribe some audio, a tool to make a specific kind of chart, a tool to digest meeting notes. These are the kinds of requests that I see very, very frequently. And the reality is, most of the time, you don't need a specialized single-purpose vendor, a point solution for those requests if you know how to use the foundation technologies well. For example, someone who wants an AI tool to take some data and turn it into a specific kind of chart, that's something ChatGPT's advanced data analysis option can handle with ease. You don't need a $99 a month subscription to some tool just to do that. The foundation model can do that. An AI tool to process meeting notes. There are so many models that can handle that specific request. You don't need to buy extra software from other companies to accomplish those tasks, though I'm sure the software vendors out there would argue that you do need them. They do not sponsor this show, so. This behavior isn't limited to AI either. Every year, my friend Scott Brinker and his organization publish the MarTech landscape. It used to be called the MarTech 5000. That was the MarTech 7000, then the 9000. It shows the number of marketing technology solutions available in the market. This past year, it was over 11,000. 11,000 different companies and solutions, which is just nutty, right? Like, how many CRM software packages do we really need? Turns out there's like 1,000 of them. That's nutty. The MarTech space is filled with these point solutions, these unitaskers that do one thing and charge you $299 a month for it. And companies' accounting ledgers and credit card receipts are filled with dozens, maybe even hundreds of these single-purpose vendors. Why does this happen? It happens for three reasons: time, skills, and culture. And this is true of cooking appliances, of MarTech, and of AI. When something's on fire and you need a solution right now, people typically do not invest a lot of time into evaluating the problem and determining the different options. They need something fixed, and they need it right now. They need it yesterday, and they buy the fastest solution to their problem. Right? The barbecue claws, the CRM add-on, the AI model that makes a certain type of PowerPoint. People just buy the stuff. The second reason is skills and experience. If you are technologically savvy, you have the necessary skills to build a solution, perhaps out of existing tech you already own, and thus you don't need to buy anything. On the other hand, if you don't have the necessary skills, you may default to buying something rather than acquire the skills needed to solve the problem, which is related in part to time. Again, think about it. If you know how barbecue meat works, you also know you don't really need those claws, right? 2 forks do just as well. But if you don't have the skills, if you don't have that knowledge, then a slick salesman could say, yeah, you need these giant claws to pull apart your barbecue. You don't. But that's a knowledge thing, right? It's knowledge and skills. The third reason is culture. Many folks who read this newsletter, like you, live in a culture of both capitalism and instant gratification. This is not a knock on where you live. It's just a fundamental truth. We have an app for pretty much nearly anything. Like, the only thing we don't have an app for on our phones is like the ability to fly a military jet from our phone. Everything else there's an app for. We expect solutions that are available with a swipe, and we buy solutions as often as we can, and we are told to buy solutions all the time. Along the way, we have been dissuaded by corporations in both B2B and B2C contexts, B2B and B2C alike, from solving our own problems. Our default behavior is to buy rather than build, even when building may be the best choice, right? We're just told, just buy more stuff. Got a problem? Buy something. There's other solutions than that, but that's the message that we're given a lot of the time. So, what are the solutions here? How can you approach AI, particularly generative AI, in a thoughtful manner without being overrun by hundreds of point solutions? How do you make decisions on behalf of yourself, your organization, maybe your entire company? Maybe you have really big responsibilities. You lead a city, a province, a nation. If you lead a nation and you read this newsletter, say hi. You can do so quietly. The first and most important question you have to ask is the problem you're trying to solve suited for AI? Large language models, those engines that power services like ChatGPT, are really good at predicting words. They're language models, right? As language models, they are proficient with working with language. Thus, if you have a problem that is language-based, they're probably going to be pretty good at solving it. If you have a problem that's not language-based, like math, they're going to be less good at solving those problems. Many language models are terrible at math out of the box. The same is true of older forms of AI, like classical machine learning, right? If you have a problem that involves classifying data, you cannot and should not be using regression models to try and solve it. Right? It's like trying to cook a steak with a blender. It's the wrong tool for the job. So, first, figure out if the problem you're trying to solve is suited for AI. Second, once you've identified that the problem you're trying to solve can be solved by AI, the next most important question to ask yourself is, can I solve this myself with a foundation model? This is for generative AI specifically. Foundation models are the starting point for AI solutions. These are the tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Bing, Bard, LM Studio, paired with models like GPT-4, Claude, Palm 2, Llama 2, etc. Foundation models are flexible. You can get them to perform many, many different tasks pretty capably. Contrast that with point solutions built around a very specific purpose, like transcription software, or social media post generation software, or NDA evaluation software, blog writing software, where you may not even know what the underlying model is. These point solutions are inflexible, and worse, they may be bound to a foundation model that is significantly out of date. At the recent MACON, the Marketing AI Conference in Cleveland, I talked to several engineers at various vendors who sheepishly, after a couple of beers, admitted that they architected their solutions a couple of years ago to be hard-coded to the GPT-3 model from OpenAI, which, again, is like 2020, 2021. That may as well be the Jurassic era when it comes to AI. Now, these companies and their point solutions significantly underperform even base foundation models, right? Like a Llama 2 model, which is a relatively small model, beats the pants off of the old generation of these things. But these companies are stuck because they didn't plan for it. You want to get good at working with foundation models so that you know what AI is and is not capable of. And only then should you consider purchasing a point solution. When you do go down that road, ask tough questions to the vendor about how their solution is architected, and do not accept, oh, it's all proprietary as an answer. That is not an answer. That's an invitation to leave that vendor behind. Ask a sales engineer or regular engineer to describe the abstraction layer inside the vendor's software and what kind of flexibility it has. A software solution with a good abstraction layer allows you to basically open up the hood, pull one model out, and put another model in. It's like changing the head on a stand mixer, right? From the paddle to the whisk to the dough hook. You put the attachment on that serves the best fit for the problem at hand, right? Most software vendors in the AI space, they have not been building their solutions with this principle in mind. So if you run into a vendor that says, yeah, you can swap out models, you can swap this or that out, that's a sign that the vendor's a high-quality vendor. If the vendor won't tell you what their model is, the usual, oh, it's proprietary, it's whatever, or they tell you, yeah, we can't swap out models, that's a good sign that that vendor's not going to keep up with the times and probably is not a good fit for the solution. Even vendors who say they have their own proprietary model, there's probably a base model in there somewhere. Like you probably started with MPT 7B or GPTJ 6B. You start with something and then you built on top of that. So asking people what was your starting base is an important question. Like these days, as of September 2023, most people should be starting with the Llama 2 base. Right? That is today's state of the art. That is a manageable size. That is open to people tuning it. And so, if a vendor is building their own software and they're not just putting a skin on Claude or ChatGPT, they probably are starting with Llama 2, and then whatever custom version of that along the way. But you want a vendor that can pull one engine out, put another one in, and keep up with the times. Just as there's an app for everything, there's an AI model for nearly everything, including things where AI models are simply the wrong solution. To avoid falling in the trap of dozens of AI point solutions cluttering up your productivity kitchen, follow the steps I outlined above and become proficient with foundation models and tools. You personally will be more capable. You will understand what the tools can and cannot do. And who knows, you may perhaps even invent a product or service of your own along the way, just from your experiences working closely with the foundation models and tools. So that's avoiding AI point solutions. What else happened this week? What else is in the news? Well, this past week, we did a really fun live stream on evaluating generative AI use cases using a 2x2 matrix. Actually, several of them. So if you want to be thinking strategically about identifying opportunities for the use of generative AI, go watch that. Also had some questions I answered this week on how do you find AI work at companies, the brand impact of AI content generation, and influencing large language models for brand marketing. So lots and lots of fun stuff there. I have been really busy booking up and I've got another event in November. Two events in November. So if you were interested in bringing my AI talk to your company, I do this internally. They're typically private. They're typically, we all sign a bunch of NDAs, and then we can customize the talks to talk about your company's data and stuff like that. If that is of interest to you, there's a link in the newsletter for how to sign up for that. In jobs this week, Amazon, PPC specialist at Kilo Health, analytics manager at Tracken, campaign manager at Movable Inc., program manager of data engineering at Pepsi, QA automation engineer at Kilo Health, SEO analyst at Social Driver, SEO technical manager at UMGC, and senior manager of conversion rate optimization at Octane. So lots of stuff happening there. In other news, TikTok's first European data center in Dublin is now operational. Dublin is a huge tech market. For folks who don't know, there's a lot of transatlantic cables that terminate there. And so they've got a massive, it's like the Irish version of Silicon Valley. It's huge. some stuff on evergreen content, best practices for events in and SEO in e-commerce. Google confirming Google sites are not ideal for SEO purposes. I should have seen that one coming. Interesting piece on how will we know if AI is conscious. Neuroscientists have set up a checklist understanding algorithmic biases, types, and causes. IBM's got some new models, the IBM Granite Foundation models. They've named all of theirs after rocks of a variety of kinds. And then the story that I thought was really funny this week is just a dealer's choice, random stuff. Taylor Swift just taking a bat to the movie studio's knees. The studios are already all dealing with the various strikes. Taylor Swift apparently decided to just completely sidestep them and took her concert film that she made of her most recent tour, and it went straight to AMC movie theaters and said, hey, we want to show this. She worked out a deal, really good deal. The pre-sales for that have been, I think, the fastest selling and biggest grossing pre-sales tickets in AMC's history. And it's interesting because it is showing that content creators who have a track record of being able to put butts in seats, like Taylor Swift, don't need movie studios to show movies. She made the movie herself. Well, her company did. She's distributing it herself, and she's collecting the profits from it herself, and she just cut the middleman right out, and good for her. Good for her, because the movie studios themselves they got some thinking to do. Let's put it that way. Upcoming events: ISBM in Chicago in September, followed by Content Marketing World, Marketing Analytics and Data Science in DC. Content Jam in Chicago, Marketing Profs B2B Forum here in Boston in October, and Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. And I'll have a new event coming up in November. Just got to get the paperwork all squared away for it. So that is the newsletter for this week. Thank you for your attention. Appreciate you being here. And please do share it with a friend, a colleague, somebody you think needs to hear more about the wonderful world of artificial intelligence and data and analytics. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.